AEW sources claim that rumors regarding William Regal being unhappy and having issues backstage in All Elite Wrestling are complete BS, with the latest news on Regal's departure from the company. Speaking of AEW, Rampage last week recorded its lowest ever viewership numbers and key demo rating, and now is the program in danger of being cancelled. Tony Khan addresses criticisms of new AEW wrestlers being introduced to the company. Speaking of Khan, he's also addressed criticism of AEW's booking of Ring of Honor so far. Renee Paquette gives details on her AEW contract and the latest news on AEW Fight Forever. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling, and we have to continue talking about William Regal, his departure from the company, his return to WWE. Lots of rumors and maybe misinformation, speculation out there at the moment regarding Regal, his departure from AEW, his reasons for leaving the company, why he's going to return to WWE, and any possible backstage issues that he may or may not have been having during his tenure with All Elite Wrestling. Now, AEW sources have reportedly claimed that rumors surrounding the locker room's attitude towards William Regal and his wisdom, offerings, maybe teachings, are complete BS. Busted Open Radio's Justin LaBar and former WWE superstar EC3 have both said recently that they'd heard that there were issues in the AEW locker room when it comes to talent taking advice from veterans, something which apparently influenced Regal to want out of AEW so he could indeed return to WWE. LaBar and EC3 are far from the first person to point out this issue, as CM Punk called out Hangman Adam Page for the very same issue during his post-AEW All-Out media scrum after Page had admitted in an interview that he doesn't feel that he needs to take any advice from veterans. Jim Ross and Billy Gunn have also remarked on it in the past as well on their various podcasts and in interview, as well as other veterans within All Elite Wrestling. Well, BJ Bethel of SE Scoops is now reporting that he's heard from AEW sources who, according to their side of this story, don't believe that this is an issue within the company. One source called the idea completely inaccurate. The source added, quote, "There was no formal coaching session when it was something that was scheduled or anything like that. Usually he would go down to the ring to help someone and word would spread like, hey, Regal is down in the ring." Another source said, quote, "I can't believe this is a story. It's complete BS. There was never some schedule you had to be down at the ring and people blew it off. And Regal was never going to flat tell someone they had to come to the ring so he could coach them. Regal would work with someone, people would go down and show up. A lot of people took advantage of it. Other vets do it all the time. It's always the younger women and men. Sometimes someone would work with someone one-on-one. Other times there could be quite a few people down. It was totally informal." Another said Regal would even sit in the stands with guys to talk about the fans' point of view or the point of view of watching on TV. He would tell you about making sure to know how you are looking to fans as you come to the ring and how you would look on TV. He said to make sure you're always really nice to the camera guys. They're the ones who make you look good. Even if there wasn't a formal training setup, as these sources say, it's still pretty clear that not all AEW talents were taking true advantage of veterans like Regal, Billy Gunn, Jim Ross, etc. And it's pretty clear it's becoming a problem, if it wasn't one already, even if it's just a divide between the veterans in the locker room and the up-and-coming or current talent. It's believed, of course, that William Regal's AEW contract is up in December this month, and he'll be back within WWE in a backstage role within the new year. Look, this is going to really end in a situation whereby you're going to have to believe who you want to believe. Unless William Regal comes out and says in an interview that this is or isn't true, we're not going to know. Now, William Regal, of course, does have his podcast, so I guess there's a possibility he could speak on the matter. But if you've ever listened to the Gentleman Villain podcast, which is William Regal's podcast, you would know that he doesn't like to talk about that kind of stuff. You know, he's still very old school in that manner. He'll talk about certain aspects and psychology of pro wrestling, and he'll almost coach through his podcast, but at the same time, he doesn't comment on backstage gossip, even some really, really famous or infamous backstage gossip that he may or may not have been a part of. He always says, I don't really want to talk about it, or it's in the past, it's done, I don't think that's right to talk about it, I don't want to attribute to, the ongoing dirt sheet speculation or the professional wrestling media speculation. I much prefer just to do my job and talk about things that happened or critique them, but I don't care to talk about speculation or rumors. And I don't suspect that will be any different in this situation. So unless William Regal comes out and says, no, that's not the case, or this did happen, or this didn't happen. And look, he might come out, and I would suspect probably the most likely scenario here is that William Regal maybe on his podcast says, I've never had any issue within AEW. I loved my time there. I love the people working there. I'm going back to WWE. I've signed with WWE. I wish AEW nothing but the best. I really enjoyed my time there. I loved working with Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, MJF, etc. But now it's time to go back to WWE. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's that. I don't even know if he'll clarify the details of his contract. Certainly, I don't think he'll speculate on, gossip or speculation about people not listening to him or talents not listening to him. As I mentioned, you have to see it for what it is, and there has always, this isn't a new thing in pro wrestling, right? How often have we heard current talent or young talent say, oh, this guy was old, he didn't know what he was talking about, he was so behind the times, he was such a fossil, he didn't get the current style, he didn't get the current landscape of pro wrestling, whatever. It's always the case. It's always the case. Now, myself, I have major reservations about if there are people within AEW that think they know better than William Regal. I think that's laughable. And I do kind of agree on what CM Punk is saying in his rant, in that post All Out to Media Scrum, where he said, how can someone like Hangman Adam Page come out in an interview and say, I don't feel like I need to listen to the advice of veterans? Of course you do. Whether or not you take it on board is something else. But even why would you just say that? That's just not. It's not polite, to a lack of a better term. Why would you just say that? Why would you say it's always nice to hear them? Whether or not you take the advice, whatever. If someone gives you advice in everyday life, you say thank you very much. It's up to you whether you decide to keep it or not. But even if you decide to listen to it or you don't decide to listen to it, it's all good information that can make you better or a little bit wiser. And this idea of coming up publicly and drawing a line in the sand, I don't have to listen to that, or I don't think I should listen to that. I mean, the industry's built on respect, and that doesn't seem very respectful. But nevertheless, look, it's Wednesday night. You know what that means. Dynamite on TBS. It looks like William Regal's not going to be there. Certainly he shouldn't, considering he got attacked and written off of television last week. And it would appear he's made his final AEW appearance. Will we hear more about this? I'm sure we'll hear more rumors. I'm sure there will be a big report that comes out in the future, possibly this coming Friday with The Observer, or I'm sure Sean Ross Sapp behind the scenes is trying to get more information about what's going on with Regal and WWE and AEW, and if these reports could be substantiated. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if we don't hear anything else regarding that, especially from the horse's mouth when it comes to Regal. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, if we do get any more information about that, we'll talk about it here on the channel. Let's talk about Rampage, and we need to have a really serious talk about AEW Rampage, because this show is not working, and the ratings and the numbers for this show continue to get lower and lower and lower, to the point now where they've hit record lows. Now, I did a video the other day asking the question, why are the ratings in AEW declining? And actually, that video coincided then with this huge ratings disaster for the December 2nd edition of Rampage. And I've been saying this for months here on the channel, but the ratings are really starting to reflect it, because things aren't looking good for AEW Rampage. The December 2nd episode drew the lowest score in the key 18 to 49 demographic in the show's history. Per Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, the edition drew 361,000 viewers and scored an 18 to 49 demo rating of 0.08. Now, Dave Meltzer addressed the scary low ratings during the latest Wrestling Observer Radio. He said, quote, Rampage was the lowest in its history, 0.08, 101,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demo, which is a terribly low number. Rampage has never got below 0.10 or 0.10. This number is so low it boggles. It was scary low. Meltzer compared Rampage performance to Wednesday Night Dynamite numbers. He mentioned the word that no showrunner wants to hear, that being cancellation. Meltzer noted, quote, the Wednesday Dynamite number is still really good for the station. It's bigger than Big Bang Theory does, so it's good. It's not as good as it's been, but it's not like these numbers are going to get you cancelled. They're not at all. Now, the Rampage number, I don't know about talking about cancellation, but that number's not for a first run program and everything like that on that station, TNT, on a Friday. It's not a good number. Usually what they've done in the last couple of months, even though the numbers are not big, they are acceptable in that time slot, and bigger than that time slot was doing before. But now we're not in that situation at all. So Tony has got to spruce up that show. That's all there is to it. Now, something about AEW Rampage doesn't seem to be clicking with the audiences. The last episode saw Orange Cassidy defend the AEW All-Atlantic Championship against QT Marshall in a lumberjack match in the main event. In a rare occurrence for main events, actually, Cassidy and Marshall actually gained viewers and was the most watched part of the show. Jeff Jarrett also had his second match for AEW, teaming with Jay Lethal to defeat Private Party. Other matches on the show were Darby Allin versus Cole Carter in the opener and Athena versus Danny Moe. The Acclaimed and FTR also appeared and set up a match for this week's edition of Dynamite. And if you're wondering what the issues are, why that show didn't draw, no disrespect to those on the card, but look at the card. I mean, that's why. And whilst Orange Cassidy and QT Marshall did draw in viewers, it's still not a huge number. And I've said it before, it's not rocket science or brain surgery to figure out why Rampage isn't doing very well. It's very easy to know why that show is struggling for several reasons. One, it's a tape show. Nowadays, tape shows in pro wrestling struggle. They struggle a lot in pro wrestling because the internet and social media is a thing. Even if, like back in the day, it used to be a thing, a show was taped, you could easily find it online, but you could say, well, not everyone reads dirt sheet websites. Okay, that was one thing. But nowadays, social media, everyone's on social media. Even if they're trying to avoid spoilers, they'll see spoilers for the show. And then they'll go, oh, I don't want to tune in, actually. I'm not going to bother. So the taped aspect hurts the show massively. It will always hurt the show massively, the show being taped. That's one part of it. The second part of it is the time slot sucks. It's 10 p.m. So you've got a show airing from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. that's taped, that people know about, but it's always going to struggle to draw. On top of that, the show's been around for 18 months now, and the audience has been conditioned at this point, you don't have to watch. You don't have to tune in. If you miss Rampage, you don't miss anything. The key show to watch is Dynamite, and even that at the moment is hardly must-see most weeks. So you've got three things there where you've got, again, a tape show, you've got a show in a bad time slot, and a show that the audience has been told, don't bother tuning in. And that's the point. That's the problem now. Even when it's live and it does a bit of a better number, still the people on the show don't draw, and the cards don't really draw. Again, because you've told the audience not to care. And what do you expect? And frankly, at this point, Tony Khan's searching for, where do I put Ring of Honor? Or can I get a Ring of Honor TV deal? Just scrap Rampage. Scrap Rampage and just give that slot to Ring of Honor. And you can't do much worse. Even if it does the same, at least you've split the rosters by that point. And to be honest, it probably would draw a little bit better in actuality, because those people that would only be appearing on ROH, suddenly that you can only see them once a week in this time slot. You're saying to your audience, you like the Ring of Honor stuff, or you like Chris Jericho, or you like Samoa Joe, or you like whoever in ROH, you can only watch them Friday night 10 p.m. Make it live as well. Failing that, move the slot then, like I've said this before, to fix Rampage or to turn this into ROH television. Move it to Saturday and have it 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Do that, because what's happening at the moment is not working on this show. And frankly, it should just be scrapped or regenerated. And I know Tony Khan a couple of times has said, oh no, we're going to really have a big push on it. But they have a big push on it for a couple of weeks, and then it goes back to this, and then it dies again. Rampage is dying. And frankly, at this point, it might already be dead. So they need to start again or try something vastly different, because the show is not working. Factual, it's not. Speaking of the criticisms of AEW, Tony Khan has addressed some of the criticism of AEW's introduction of new wrestlers. Tony Khan has responded to accusations that AEW's method of debuting new talent on television is often a little lackluster. On the most recent edition of AEW Rampage, the company debuted Shane Taylor in a segment with Keith Lee to set up a tag team match at Ring of Honor Final Battle. Speaking on the Battleground podcast, Khan discussed Taylor's introduction to AEW, saying, quote, there are fans who have never seen Shane Taylor before, and that's okay. You get introduced to new faces all the time. When I was a young wrestling fan, that was one of the things I liked about WCW Nitro. I think it would be very ironic now that the same promoter, Eric Bischoff, would tell you you don't want to see these faces or introduce new people on TV because they were the ones who did that. A lot of the time, these new faces or read in a magazine I've never seen before, and they would just walk out and wrestle on Nitro like it was perfectly natural, and I thought it was the coolest thing. I guess that's not acceptable anymore, even though it's much easier to access information on the internet than it was in 1996. You saw wrestlers coming in from all promotions in the 90s on Nitro. Wrestlers coming to TBS or TNT is nothing new. People complaining it's ad nauseum on the internet is certainly new. At the end of the day, you want to listen to what the fans are saying. Overall, there has been a positive reception to a lot of the international wrestlers coming to AEW. I understand the point he's trying to make because Nitro did do that a lot in the past. That is absolutely true, but at the same time, just because they did it doesn't mean you can. And as he mentions, and he kind of throws in there, listen to the audience, because not everything needs a story and an introduction in that case. But I think the critique isn't the fact that they do it; it's the fact that they do it a lot. I think that's the difference. That's the criticism there. But I mean, I do appreciate. I just appreciate even Tony Khan even addressing it, because in the past he hasn't, or he doesn't really usually address that kind of stuff. So you know what? I'm happy that he just kind of addressed this one, even though I don't necessarily totally agree. Speaking of criticism as well, Tony Khan spoke about the criticism regarding the booking of AEW's Ring of Honor inclusion, shall we say. Now, AEW CEO Tony Khan has spoken about his attempts to limit the company's focus on Ring of Honor segments on AEW television. Khan has received criticism in recent months for using AEW sparing television time to tell stories related to the secondary promotion, often at the expense of AEW feuds. In an interview with the Battleground podcast, Khan said he had tried to limit the Ring of Honor focus to just segments featuring Chris Jericho, who currently holds the ROH World Championship. Quote, "One thing I have tried to do, I think we only have 3 hours of AEW TV a week, so I have tried to limit the Ring of Honor focus on Dynamite to mostly the Ring of Jericho and Chris Jericho, the ROH World Champion." He also said that he tried to keep the other ROH title matches on either AEW Rampage or Dark Elevation, saying he finds it amusing when people call out the idea that there's too much ROH on Dynamite. As well as being the ROH World Champion, Jericho was also AEW's first ever World Champion. Jericho will defend the Ring of Honor World Championship against Claudio Castagnoli in the main event of ROH Final Battle this Saturday on December 10. Of course, if Castagnoli loses the match, he will have to join the Jericho Appreciation Society. I think that the criticism was that at the start, that there was too much focus. I mean, he says that. I mean, at the same time, you've still got the Ring of Honor television champion on there in Samoa Joe. I know he's the TNT champion too, but that's part of that as well, I guess. I think it's the overabundance of exposure. Again, that's what it goes back to with the inclusion of Ring of Honor. And I do think that a lot of it does get solved when they figure out that ROH TV deal. When that's coming, where that's coming, I don't know. But I think that is a big solution to a lot of it too. Renee Paquette has given details on her AEW contract. AEW officially announced that Renee Paquette was All Elite during their debut show in Canada on October 12. Since then, Renee has taken part in many interview segments with the company, including most recently with the Blackpool Combat Club and the Jericho Appreciation Society. Renee recently spoke to the Sports Media podcast where she detailed her contract with AEW, confirming how long she is signed for, saying, quote, "I've got a multiple-year deal. I have a 3-year deal with AEW, 3 years as a talent, and a 3-year producer contract. I have 2 different contracts." And she also continued to say she would love to see that role evolve. But interesting to note that she's not just a talent, she's also a producer. Again, what that producer role entails, whether that's just, for promos, whether that's for in-ring work or anything like that, that would make no sense at all. But it might be for other media shows as well. I mean, Renee Paquette, as I mentioned, I think is going to evolve into the sort of the Mean Gene figure, taking over that role from Tony Schiavone in the company. But also, if AEW does spread out into doing other shows, talk shows or backstage shows, then Renee Paquette should be front and center with that. And hopefully she is, because that's really what she's best at. She's best at being a personality. Finally, some new details on Fight Forever as well. We're still waiting to, finally get a release date for Fight Forever. But we do have possibly now some more details regarding the upcoming AEW console video game regarding Fight Forever. When will AEW Fight Forever be released? That has been the question throughout 2022 as more developments regarding the long-awaited video game continue to emerge, minus the dates in which the fans will be able to finally play it. While there will surely come a day where the release date for Fight Forever is revealed, it's not this day. But this day does include more updates though, courtesy of Evil Uno from the Dark Order. The AEW star, who has been involved with the development of the game, spoke to Fightful Select and Sean Ross Sapp during WrestleCade this past weekend and provided some further inside information into Fight Forever. Chief among the updates was a confirmation that Fight Forever will be a single release game as opposed to being the beginning of a series similar to WWE 2K. This, according to Uno, will allow the game to evolve over time while also explaining why the game is being called Fight Forever, as fans in theory should be able to play it for forever. Also confirmed by Uno is that the game will start off with a roster of 50 AEW wrestlers, as expected based on past reports. Other wrestlers such as FTR will not be included in the initial release, but are likely to be added to the game as time goes on. It was pointed out to Fightful that Danhausen will be another wrestler who will not be included when the game is released, as he joined AEW well into the development of the game. Whenever it is released, Fight Forever will include stars that are no longer with AEW, such as Cody Rhodes. Of course, Cody Rhodes left AEW earlier this year, returning to WWE at WrestleMania. It's also been confirmed that CM Punk will be a part of the game. And look, you know, the idea of being able to fight forever on the game is fun. How profitable that is, I don't know. It'll be surprising. There's no way another game never gets released. Maybe this is just this is just a point where it's like, we're not going to do a WWE and release a game every year, you know, as in the 2K series or the SmackDown vs. Raw series or FIFA or anything like that. You're not going to get Fight Forever 2023 or 2024. It might be a case of this game's going to get released, and then in 5 years' time we'll release Fight Forever 2 or something like that. That's probably, I think, the direction that they're going in with that. But if we get any more details regarding a release date, we'll talk about it here on the channel. But there you go, guys. That's the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.